Hello, it's me, and it's you, and we're here. And I am already suffering from the heat. It did not take very long into this wonderful, super climate stable summer. It's not even summer, Jesus Christ. Like, it's barely spring, and I'm like, wow, I'm overheating already. But anyway, hello. A couple people in the chat already. We're kind of having a slow start to the stream today, but that's all right. That's okay. Yeah, the music stopped because I only put on one song. But I'm wearing my noise canceling earbuds right now that my partner got me on Christmas because I'm having to blast the AC today. Right? Like, we're already at that point where I'm blasting my portable AC unit. Yeah. So, and it's loud AF. Yeah, it's way too hot in PNW. That's what I'm saying. It's 70 degrees outside, 70 Fahrenheit. Sorry to everybody on the other side of the ocean, because it's like, okay, so it's only like 22 degrees Celsius, and I'm already like, I'm so warm, and it's uncomfortable. So like, my hands get cold, and I'll be like, oh, the like cold of my hands feels so good, and I just shaved my head, so I can also get those like, oh, the side of my head feels so good when I touch it with my cold hands. So yeah, I apologize if we end up cutting this one short or anything. I'm still trying to figure out, what exactly the solution is to, like, I probably should leave the windows open at night, but like, unfortunately, I have neighbors who produce smells that I don't want to enter my home. I don't want to get into too much detail about it, but like, I have neighbors who don't seem too concerned about how they're, doing whatever they're doing with the windows open is impacting their neighbors. So I can't even keep the windows open the way that I want to. Um, don't really know how to deal with that problem. So, just doing my best to manage it. But yeah, hello, Evil Cooper. I'm starting to feel a little bit better since okay, I haven't, I don't know. Is it because of the humidity? Possibly, possibly. Um, I don't have a humidity sensor in my house, so I don't know. I maybe should get one, like a temperature and humidity sensor to help me kind of figure it out. But yeah, it's tough. I just left Matt and Austin's live for this. They're great, but I can always watch them dunk on dummies later. That's so true. Thank you so much for hanging out here with us today. I it's just a totally different vibe, right? I stream on Sundays and Wednesdays when frequently Matt Dillahunty is streaming or on the line really. And yeah, it's just different vibes. If you want to yell at people and enjoy some spice, then hang out with Matt. That's consistent. You'll usually consistently get some of those things. But if you want to chill, if you want to relax, if you're tired of the goddamn news, then, come hang out here and we'll complain about how fucking hot it is and it's barely April right now. um Oh, and it's Easter. Right. Yeah. I always forget that it's Easter. So, cuz I don't care about that holiday and I don't do anything with family or anything, so yeah, I've got my ice already melted, but this is ice water, so that's good. I've got my door shut, or it's like mostly shut. I want to leave possibility for Mina to come in and out, but so I'm doing my best to kind of keep the cold air in here. Nice cold water. Hi, Kitty Tick. Hope you're having a beautiful day. It is too bright and too hot on the coast, so I pity the Willamette today. I moved here for the never-ending rain. I feel lied to. Got a new symptom for when I ever get my rheumatology appointment. Oh, you've wrecked your lower legs. No, that's such a bummer. I'm so sorry. Yeah, I feel kind of similarly. I guess I didn't really factor in the whole climate change aspect of moving up to the PNW. I knew, because I've been looking at projected climate maps, I knew that, we're going to have, instead of reduced agricultural output here in the valley, it's going to have more and more agricultural output as climate change continues over the next 20 years or so. Where the fuck are my glasses cleaning cloths? So I guess I just didn't really consider that, what that means in a practical sense, that obviously it's a good thing that the growing season is going to get longer. It's going to get warmer earlier in the year and it's going to get colder later in the year, but it's so freaking hot and it's going to get hotter in the summer and blah, 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 blah. But does anybody else have this issue where you're like strangely resistant to using the AC, even though it's not really like a financial problem? Because I feel like I can afford I feel like I can afford to have the AC on. I just am resistant to it in a way that I was not resistant to it when I lived in Kansas. It's like, we would just leave the AC on. We had central air. We would leave the AC on and it needed to be on even overnight because, it would, in Kansas, on the days where it's 99 degrees during the day, it doesn't get below 70 degrees at nighttime. So, it doesn't really cool down significantly. Here, even on the days where it's like 90 degrees in the summertime, it cools down into the 60s overnight, sometimes even the upper 50s. So I guess I just have this feeling like I shouldn't have to run the AC maybe. So I don't know. I think I'm just going to have to get over that and just start blasting the AC earlier in the day, right? Because I was also like, yeah, well, whatever, maybe I'll start turning on the AC, like afternoon, right? Because that's another thing about the fact that it cools down so much overnight is it also takes kind of longer to get to the peak of hotness during the day. So it's not until like mid-afternoon that it gets to the hottest it's going to be for the whole day. But, in particular, my house is like, I don't know if it's not very well insulated or if the windows are just really shit, but if the sun is out, it bakes my house. And then it gets hot in here. Like it's been in the 60s, upper 60s the last couple days, and today I think we're just hitting 70 degrees, something like that. And yeah, it's like almost 80 degrees inside my house. So yeah, we're kind of having to take things slow. What's AC? We don't have that in Arkansas. See, that seems crazy to me. Or is AK Alaska? I can't remember. We just open our windows when it gets in the 60s and above. Yeah, it doesn't work that way in my house. And like I said earlier, like I can't open the windows because I have neighbors who have lots of stinky things going on. And so if I open my windows, which is really unfortunate, and I really would like need to figure out if there's somebody I can call about that. Like, hey, I literally can't open my fucking windows to cool down my house because my neighbors are stinking up the entire neighborhood. Do you have a swamp cooler / evaporative cooler? I don't. I know how to make one. It's pretty easy, right? Like you can put up a box fan with like a bowl of water in front of it and like some paper towels hanging up over the edges. But I've had some people suggest like, is the humidity part of what's making it too hot in here? So, probably need to tinker with some of these things over the next month. And I just ordered some blackout curtains. So I like everywhere in my house that I can put really thick, nice quality curtains, I'm going to do that. I got some shower curtain rods because like shower curtain rods, they just typically, at least anyway, in any place that I've lived, they just kind of have a suspension thing going on where they press against the walls on either side, so you don't have to install any hardware. So I basically got a bunch of those and some blackout curtains. I already own some blackout curtains, so there's some places where I'm just going to hang the curtains that I already have. And I'm hoping that can kind of reduce the overall problems that we're dealing with. Lux, if we hypothetically get to 100, what are you going to flex about? I'm going to flex my biceps. Censored. You can't see them right now. Censored. Dude, yeah, whoa. When I heard some businesses and schools in California don't have AC, it blew my mind. Right. It's crazy. How do you live? And like Alyssa, who's a chewed gum host on the line, she just moved to an apartment in California where she doesn't have central AC. She just has, if you've ever looked at rentals and stuff that have no central air, but they do have a unit like built into the wall in the living room. Like, I've stayed at hotels. Like, I think actually it's like not uncommon for hotels to have this. So it's like a unit built into the side of the wall that you can do either heat or cold out of that one unit. And they're pretty big, like they're nice and wide, and they're loud as fuck. But yeah, it's like you just have to have one of those and blast it all day long. Like it seems like that's the solution to the problem. Anyway, scooch over here a little bit so that I can read chat better. I need to get new glasses to address my astigmatism. To be honest, Minnesota is lovely right now. A bit windy, but great spring weather. It's literally nicer outside than it is in my house. Like, that's the frustrating thing. If I could crank the windows and blast air through the house, then that would be one thing. But it's not. It's just not an option most of the day. So, unfortunately. I'm also in Oregon and have been annoyed all day with the heat. Glad it's not just me losing it. Seriously, I think it's like today is a high of like 74, 75. And then tomorrow it's going to be almost 80 degrees. Or no. Actually, today it could get as high as like damn near 80 degrees. So we're in the upper 70s in April. Look at that. Do you see that calendar? It's April. Whoa. I'm sorry, baby. You're okay. I'm sorry, Mina. You okay, girl? I dropped my phone on the table and she kind of spooked. You're a good girl. Yeah. Yeah, you're such a baby. She's a sweetheart. My daughter's school just got AC during the COVID lockdowns. They used that time to finally fix the school up. Good. Yeah, it's wild how bad the school situation is with regards to air filtration and everything. And of course, I've been hammering on this like since the COVID lockdowns that actually, if you look at the timeline of events, and I don't want to go on another COVID rant. I know I did this on Wednesday. I'm going to keep it brief. But part of the reason why the quote emergency was ended in the United States was because if it had continued, then there would have been an obligation on the part of the government to start upgrading um, those air filtration systems and all this kind of stuff. So it's been a couple years since then, obviously. So it's been a while since I read up about this, but similar to how the you shouldn't be at work amount of time went from 2 weeks down to 5 days was because Delta Airlines said, pretty please reduce the amount of time that our workers have to be out of work. Uh, yeah, like lots of things have changed around COVID, not because anything actually got safer, but because institutions of power would have been obligated to help people, and that would have required an investment of like a financial investment that they were not willing to engage with. So, yeah, we just have to deal with poor air filtration in schools and like public perception that the danger has reduced just because, you know, corporations and the government didn't want to have to invest in updating these things. So yeah, it's kind of a huge bitch. Nice. Mama says, speaking of flexing biceps, I just set up my overhead lighting space for flexing photos in my new apartment. It's awesome. Nice. Oh, by the way, also, you kind of can't see it super well in the background here. Let me change this. Change some stuff. Oh, come here. Come here. Come here. So, I finished my Baradur Lego set. I guess it's maybe easier to see if I give it, like, give it some red, maybe? Come on. Baradur. There's the Eye of Sauron right up there. Boop, 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 boop. Isn't that cool? Finished that on like Friday night, I think. Took a week. Come on. Go back to green. Son of a bitch, dude. There we go. It took, yeah, like the better part of a week. I worked on it like all day. I worked on it like all day Saturday, Sunday last weekend. Took the day off on Sunday. Worked on it Friday evening last week, and then a little bit periodically throughout the week this week, because I was like, you know, in the evening I cook dinner and stuff, so I wanted to take like a huge amount of time working on it. So just like kind of a little bit here and there, and I got it finished Friday night. So that's just gonna kind of live back there because I don't really have a better place to display it. So hello, people just coming into the chat. Welcome, welcome. We're kind of just chilling. Yeah. The capitalist class does not want to provide the infrastructure required for society to function, especially the US capitalist class is failing its social contract, truly. Right, yeah. It sucks too, because then the responsibility is on us. Like, I know a teacher who she masks at anytime she's working at the school, and like she has the burden on her. Like, you guys know that the burden on teachers already exists, that teachers are often having to buy supplies for their own classrooms, and for some fuck-ass reason, they're not allowed to write those things off on their taxes in the way that, like, I, as a business owner, you know, if I buy pencils that I exclusively use for work, I can write that off on my taxes, but teachers can't, which is crazy. So we're charged, like, teachers are being charged. They're having to provide their own tissues and pencils and all this. And then now also, they're having to provide their own air filtration in their classrooms. And, you know, they're having to manage the air cleanliness by opening the windows, which, again, talking about opening the windows, how are you supposed to do that in a place where there's smoke for a decent portion of the year? Like, we have fire season. So what am I going to, like, what would someone do if they lived in, you know, Washington, Oregon, California, Colorado, increasingly more and more places outside of that, where there's just regularly a fire season every August now? Like, how are you supposed to deal with that? So, yeah, it's just, yeah, I agree. It's a bummer, Fauna. Record low, thank you, Kitty, for this info. Record low snowpack across the entire Rocky Mountain region. The Colorado River Agreement runs out in 8 months, so no new agreement is in sight. We have one strategic release reservoir to keep Powell from going Deadpool, which would kill a season for farmers in an upstream region. You can't let hydropower plants run out of water. It's really bad for them. The entire Colorado River system is on the verge of collapsing. And then, of course, yeah, Trump sucks for pulling out of the Columbia River Agreement. Uh, We could have saved the PNW salmon for the long term, but without that river system with climate change, we might lose Pacific salmon in the end. It's strategic for salmon because it's far enough from the mercury being released by the Arctic melting and north enough to stay cool for them. I'm salty at a lot to do with climate stuff right now. Fucking true. Like this thing. Listen, we were talking about it on Calling It Now this week. Jimmy and I did not get basically any calls on Calling It Now on Thursday, which was really weird. We got several decent calls on the Transatlantic call-in show in the morning or early afternoon, and we had like no good calls. So we had lots of time to just sort of talk about the issues and what's on our mind and things. It was almost like a podcast episode that Jimmy and I had on Thursday this week. So yeah, I just like climate change is such a huge issue for me. And I said it on Thursday, and I'll say it again, and y'all can tell me whether this is blasphemy, but we have all of this anti-trans news going on, and that doesn't even impact me the same way that climate news does. You know? Like, obviously I'm impacted, and obviously I'm hurt, and like, my heart goes out to all the trans people out there dealing with stupid bullshit. Even in progressive states, we have to deal with challenges to trans rights, but it's so much more scary in a longer term sense that, you know, like I feel like the fascism can be defeated in a short-term sense, but climate change is already so far in that even if we went to zero emissions yesterday, which we are not going to do, then like we're still kind of on a path to a large amount of death and annihilation and extinction events occurring. So yeah, and it affects us on a daily basis too. It's not even just in the long term, right? If you are sick, like easily you get heat sick, like I do. That's part of what I'm dealing with. I'm like, I was Googling before the stream started, like, is there a way to stop being so heat sensitive with dysautonomia? Yeah, I just, trans people are more likely to be disabled. It's easier for trans people to get long COVID. Long COVID causes dysautonomia, which increases heat intolerance. And so trans people are going to be more affected by climate change in that way, where not having access to air conditioning or not having access to stable housing is going to impact trans people more than it's going to impact non-trans people. And then, of course, you add together all the different things, like Black people and people of color are more affected by those kinds of disabilities, and women are more affected by those kinds of disabilities, and queer people are more affected by those types of disabilities. And then if you like stack it up on top of each other, I don't know. It's just not fun. I don't know what dysautonomia. So the autonomic nervous system is the part of the nervous system that kind of deals with things that happen autonomously. So without you thinking about it, or you might think of it as automatic to an extent, that your digestion and regulating your body's temperature and, you know, heart rate and blood pressure and like all of those things that happen without you thinking about it, respiration, all that kind of stuff. Dysautonomia is when there is a dysfunction of the autonomic nervous system. So yeah, basically like that seems to be part of, I believe I'm still in the process of getting my diagnosis, but since I have not got the diagnosis for POTS, I don't meet criteria for POTS, but I do seem to have a lot of symptoms of connective tissue disorder. Then it seems like connective tissue disorders and dysautonomia sort of go hand in hand. So yeah, anyway. Also, how are you supposed to open a window when it's raining or when you absolutely must have the AC or heat on? Oh my gosh. So that reminds me, the opening a window and like, how do you open a window with the rain? Like, first of all, I don't really mind having windows open when it's raining because I like the rain. Again, that's why I moved here. I moved here because I like the rain. But something that my partner has kind of been really annoyed by recently is that buildings no longer are built in a way that addresses some of these problems, like awnings, for example. Like, awnings, that little thing that comes out above a window. You've got your window on the side of your house and you have a little like piece of the roof that comes out over the window. Um Awnings are actually super duper important to keeping houses cool, it turns out. And so we now also have this problem with like the buildings being built in a way where there are no awnings over any of the windows, like all these buildings with totally flat sides and no awnings over any of the windows means that the building is cooking in the sun. Like it's just directly, every single part of the outside of the building is getting direct sunlight with all of this like modern architecture. So it's like, Jesus Christ, it's really annoying actually. And it comes back again to, how do you as an individual address that problem? Like, what can you as an individual do? I rent. Like, can I go? I've been reading about balcony solar this week, because there's been a lot of news on the RSS feeds that I subscribed to about solar, that you can like get a couple solar panels that hang off the edge of your balcony, and then it just plugs directly into your 120 volt regular outlet, and then you can basically get a little bit of power off your balcony. And like, where that's illegal in various places, or the utility companies or the landlords won't allow you to do it. But I was thinking, like, that creates an awning. So you could create an awning. Like, do these studies say why they think trans people get sick more? I mean, I'm assuming that it's stress. In my opinion, I don't know if there's a lot of causal digging into, but okay, so like all minorities have a higher rate of disability than the average, like a cis white man versus a woman versus a black person versus a queer person versus a trans person. The minority groups are all more likely to have a long-term disability. So in my opinion, that's because the additional stresses that those minority groups are dealing with probably impacts their body's ability to recover from illness, and the likelihood of having autoimmune disorders, like where you have a lot of inflammation and your body is reacting to itself. Like, stress seems to be associated with poor health outcomes, right? We have been able to measure that high levels of stress, impact your physiology and inflammation and all this kind of stuff. And Dizzy also correctly adds poverty and access to medical care as related issues. So, yeah, there's several different kind of like angles that you could look at it from. I'm probably gonna have to like get more water and pee more often as well. Like, yeah. Oh, I've got my little temperature gun. I keep one of these in my house. I actually have this out because I was testing the temperature for my kombucha, which I haven't really fucked with my kombucha since like November or something. But I kind of also use it to help gauge if I'm like, wow, I feel really sick and I don't really know why. I'll just run around the house with this and like point it at stuff and be like, why do I feel so sick? I feel so sick maybe because at my desk right now, it is 79 degrees. Why is it so hot at my desk? That's so, like, the surface of my desk is like 80 degrees. That's so weird. The wall back here, 76 degrees. So I have the air conditioner on as high as it will go. And it's still really warm in here. But yeah, wouldn't it be great if we could get solar awnings over all of the windows? Or just the entire building? What if the entire building, especially, like, you also get like apartment complexes with like multiple floors. Like, what if each floor of the apartment complex had an awning around the entire thing? Maybe some people might be like, well, that's ugly, or like, well, that, it's fucking, at the end of the day, do you know the reason? The reason is that it's more expensive. Your computer give off heat. Yeah, but it's over there. My computer is way over there. So it shouldn't be that hot right on the surface of my desk. It's very strange. But yeah. That's what I was saying too, as well. That if you had awnings over the windows, that would help with the indoors not getting wet when the windows are open. Right. So it's multifaceted. With the awnings over the windows, you could open the windows more freely, with whether it's raining or not, and it helps completely with the entire house not getting warm. Yeah, it's obnoxious. Oh wait. Oh yeah. We're also on time for a volcanic cycle to go off, and we will probably see a bunch of Pacific Ring volcanoes going off, probably when the Cascadia subduction zone lets go late and violently. California is also going to go off, so there will be a massive global warming event paired with possibly the largest disaster in human history. Nothing is ready for the fuckery that is going to happen, and we have gutted the small amount of things like FEMA that we even did have. Right. I have definitely not done enough planning for the big one. Like, we are, if you guys don't know, there is like a timeline of like typically how often do big earthquakes happen, like big shifts in the crust of the earth and everything. And here in the West Coast, we are overdue. It typically happens around every like 210 years, and it's been much longer than that now. So we are overdue for a major earthquake. And there's, I don't really know how to deal with that. Honestly, I know that I should be prepared. You should have like 2 weeks worth of water stored, because that's how much water, or sorry, there's like a certain amount per person. So if I have 3 people living in my house, I should have a certain amount of water per day per person for drinking water and cleaning, right? And that's assuming that the building that you live in didn't collapse. Yeah. We need more plants in cities. That's true too. That's one of the good things about living in Oregon and Washington is there are tons of trees. And I feel like just driving around various parts of Portland and then the surrounding cities, it's beautiful partially because there's so many trees and there's lots of really tall trees. This is part of also why we want to have local stewardship for the land, because I've seen some videos recently of some drones flying and kind of looking at the line between this land on this side is owned by a private company that farms the land for timber, basically. This is like where we regularly cut down trees to produce timber. And on the other side is protected land where they don't cut down the trees. And the trees are like 4 times taller. You get the really tall, beautiful pine tree situation. And that is critical. It's absolutely critical. And it's, one of the terms you'll hear is old growth forests, which means trees that have been allowed to grow and fall, and the stuff on the ground hasn't been cleaned up, and the tree gets broken down by the microorganisms that live on the forest floor, and you've got all the various trees and wildlife on the floor of the forest and everything. Old growth forests, meaning like a multi-generational cycle of growth and falling and wonderful nutrients in the soil and everything, and obviously allowing trees to mature fully is one way that we do carbon capture. And trees cool the environment through evaporative cooling. So someone earlier asked me, do I have a swamp cooler? And maybe you've heard of a swamp cooler. It's you basically just put a fan next to a bowl of water, and maybe you put some paper towels in the water and stick them up like this so that the fan blows across the top of the water and across those paper towels, and it evaporates the water into the air. And so if you have a fan blowing cool water on you, that can help you cool down. Assuming, that the humidity isn't already so high that you lose the ability to cool your body off by sweating. And trees provide an evaporative cooling effect. Water evaporates off the tree in addition to the shade that it provides. So it's cooler underneath the tree because of the shade. The radiation from the sun is not hitting the ground underneath the tree, but also the evaporative cooling effect. So this is actually a really interesting issue of a racial divide, which you might not consider, that in poor neighborhoods, which are often Black neighborhoods or other minority groups, the investment into those neighborhoods of, are we planting trees? Are we maintaining parks, right? Like, are there resources being devoted to there? Or are those neighborhoods being developed, right? Are these residential neighborhoods right next to commercial districts where there are no trees? You can't exactly create a new old growth forest. Right. You just have to stop fucking around with the land. You just have to let it go for like 30 years, 40 years, 50 years at least to start that process over and let it rewild, basically. Because I imagine in those timber forests, they also don't have any undergrowth, or at least not very much undergrowth, because that would interfere with, you know, whatever machinery we use to go in and cut down the trees to create more wood to build things. So, yeah. Yeah, Hermit says, I had a tree outside my home that would keep it cool, but after the landlord cut it down, it's much hotter in my backyard and inside. Yeah. And of course, you're also dealing in the PNW and other places like this. There is a risk to having trees right next to your house because, again, due to climate change, there's all these fires. And so having trees right up next to your house is a risk for fires. Like there are recommendations sometimes that are like, you need to make sure that a certain amount of area around your house doesn't have those kinds of easily flammable plants or whatever. Like obviously you're all probably aware of the danger that Christmas trees can represent if you bring a pine tree into your home and it dries out, or if you've just ever put pine branches on a fire and how quickly and how hot they burn very suddenly, very fast. So that's a danger, having trees super close to your house. And you need if you do have trees right next to your house, then there also needs to be a certain distance away from the other tree. Like if you lived right next to an area that's wild, you know, it's not being cultivated for any kind of reason. So like let's say you live right up next to a forest park, you know, managed by the Parks and Forest Parks. Jesus, I can't remember the name of it right now. Any kind of BLM or whatever, any kind of forest managing site, you need to have a certain distance of your house and your trees away from that, because just the heat from a fire can dry out the air and the plants and set things on fire that are far away from each other. Much less the wind or much less embers burning, but just the heat itself. So yeah, it's true. I said that this was going to be a chill stream, and we're here talking about climate change for the last 40 minutes. I'm sorry if this is bumming anybody out. But it's like, it's just on my mind. It's on my mind right now. Something that scares me is that I live in a cutout in a forest. If there's a fire, my entire neighborhood is gone. Yeah, it's terrifying. My partner showed me green roofs, and they're very cool. Roof covered in plants that keeps your building cooler. Yeah. I see there being structural issues with that, right? Like with my construction background, when I see those on a roof, I'm thinking, ooh, how are you dealing with the moisture? Because those plants are retaining moisture right against the presumably mostly wood building, and the roots of plants can bore down through any kind of plastic sheeting that you put down to protect whatever's underneath it. So I think that they're very interesting. I just also am really curious from an engineering perspective, like what the sort of give and take is on that, where like how do you put those up there? Something that I'm really curious about is like, why is it that we don't largely have either white or very light colored roof shingles? You know, roof shingles, I've worked on roofs before. I was a solar PV installer, and I've been on a lot of roofs, and they all have like black or really dark gray shingles. And that might be something about the materials that we use, like the types of materials that we use. But yeah, I'm like, why don't we use the reflective nature of light colors to reduce the amount of heat that gets stored inside the building, or the amount of heat that gets absorbed into the building? It's like literally having, and of course it depends on where you live, Yeah, obviously, if you live in in places where there's lots of intense winter, that's a question where you're like, well, we don't necessarily want to reflect away all the light because this building gets really cold in the winter time. Uh, and even as climate extremes go more toward the hot, they're also going more toward the cold, right? We have fucking insane blizzards in Texas now. So it's like 110 degrees in Texas during the summer, but then we have blizzards during the winter, and you kind of have to figure out how to navigate that. But yeah, I'm actually really curious about that. Like, why are roofs not made in a way that keeps heat from being stored in the building? This is what I mean. Like, this is why I'm interested in engineering and like how those things move forward into the future, because we're going to have to start retrofitting things. Like, we're going to have to start fixing shit and making these kinds of changes that are structural and infrastructure related and expensive, you know? Like, if you want to install awnings on buildings that don't have them, that's going to cost money. If you want to install solar panels on buildings that don't have them, that's going to cost money. Like, it's just... A lot of cities have experimented with this, such as making warehouses and retail stores paint their roofs white, and it works very well. Cool. Green roofs use vegetation and specialized growing medium over a waterproof membrane to manage stormwater, reduce energy consumption, and insulate buildings. Yeah, it's just that, like, I've worked in gardens before, and I know that even those, like, plastic sheetings that are supposed to be waterproof, like, plant roots are very tenacious and they can grow down through those sheets. And also consider that those plastic sheets create microplastics, right? Like, there's so many different issues. And I'm not saying we shouldn't have green roofs. I'm just saying you really have to install them correctly. Yeah, I agree, Dizzy. I think all big flat roofs should be required to have solar panels, like Walmarts and grocery stores and malls. Yeah. This is one of those ways in which I am still, like, I accept some kind of socialist model of how to live in the world, that, like, Walmart should be obligated by building codes to have solar on their roofs. Like, there should be no such thing as a big box store that doesn't have solar all over its roof. I genuinely think that we should close the business if they don't do that. Most of the timber forest are widely overgrown and need to be thinned by 50 to 75%, and they also need to put the oak and hardwood forest back, which have currently been replaced by thousands of miles of Doug fir and only Doug fir, which is the least drought resistant or drought resilient of the PNW species and shouldn't be everywhere. Oak and hardwood forest are much more drought resistant, and also beavers want those to eat. I assume that that's what you meant, eat. Fat wood is a common fire starter, basically wood with lots of resin and sap, pine being really common. Yeah. So the fires are not fucking good. Remember that the capitalist class is, quote, unwilling to fix or maintain anything, so we know the why, nothing is being done, and with that answer, what will we do about it? Yeah, that is ultimately the question, right? Like, what can we as individuals, or what can we as the sort of non-powerful part of society, what can we do about this? And I don't have great answers. We do what we can, right? We do what we can. I was just thinking something that I could do right now is, I believe that there is a bill being looked at in the Oregon legislature regarding balcony solar. Like I said earlier, you can get some solar panels that basically hang off the side of your balcony, like, at a little angle like this, and you just plug them, you wire them up, and then you plug them directly into the outlet that you have on the side of the building, and it helps reduce some of your energy costs. And I could contact my representatives and be like, hey, this is, we need to restrict the ability of landlords and HOAs and utility companies to tell consumers that they can't do this. If we already know that the product is being made, and I think that UL, which is the company that, like, in the United States, it's based in Illinois, UL signs off on electrical products, and it says this product is safe. You just plug it in, you use it, it's safe. So if UL is putting the stamp of approval on the devices that we're using for balcony solar, and they're totally safe, then there should be no reason why you couldn't use them. So basically lobbying in the sense, to the extent that an individual citizen can lobby for a law to pass, like contacting representatives and having them implement those things, or even just like talking to your landlord and seeing what you can do with them and increasing awareness. Like, obviously, I am dissatisfied with my job, but this is one of the things that I can do. I can make people aware. Had you even considered that you could put solar panels on your balcony, like over the railway of your balcony, to offset some of your energy costs and to offset some of your neighbor's energy costs and to offset how much, fossil fuel type shit we have to burn, coal we have to burn or whatever, in order to meet those energy needs. And obviously, that's not as good as every Walmart being required to have solar panels on the roof. And it's not as good as hydroelectric or whatever. Like, we have to just do what we can on a local level, and to the extent that we can, lobby for those interests. Because, like, unfortunately, like, the underclass doesn't have a lot of structural power. So it's like, what do? You do what you can. Microplastics wouldn't be as big of a deal on those rooftop things because they wouldn't be exposed to the UV light that causes the plastic to degrade. Fair enough. It would still be hot sometimes, but yeah. Weirdly enough, these highly political discussions can be chill for me. It helps me to prepare. Yeah. And I guess, like, I like talking about climate change more than I like talking about trans issues, maybe because, like, even though I think that the climate issue is much more imperative, it does not hit as close to home because it's not like my personal rights or the personal rights of people I care about are being impacted, right? Like, climate change it's the kind of the great equalizer. Everybody's going to get fucked by climate change. Yeah, and Lilet, I'm not saying that it will necessarily be enough to stop anything. Like, when we individually or even as communities, when we come together and we pressure our lawmakers, or when we reform our neighborhoods, like, if we get all of the building, if we manage to campaign for, like, everybody who lives in your neighborhood, everybody who owns a house in your neighborhood puts solar panels on their roofs, or if you do a tree planting initiative where you make sure that like at least as many trees that are being cleared or felled are being replanted, right? I'm not saying that it's enough because, and I don't know if you were here, Lilet, when I said this earlier, that even if at a structural level we stopped all emissions yesterday, 0 emissions, we still would not get off the train tracks that we're on. Like, it would still take over 100 years to kind of rebalance things. So I'm not saying that it would be enough to do what you can in your neighborhood, but, I think we must say what we should be saying here. Capitalism must go. Right, yeah, of course, yeah. That is my position. My position is that doing things for the purpose of making money is the problem. Like, this is causing the fundamental issue, like, that some of these fires have been caused by poor electrical infrastructure. But if your corporation that owns the power lines needs to keep showing their shareholders growth quarter over quarter, year over year, then of course doing something like a massive reinstallation of power lines that are currently failing, or which don't which are not like sized appropriately, like like how thick the wire is not the appropriate size to carry the voltage, or to carry the voltage under those heat conditions, which is kind of the mixture of mathematics that's used to determine what kind of wire or how big of wire you install to carry an electrical current. But anyway, so if those issues are not being addressed because you have to keep showing your shareholders growth, like that is an inherent flaw in the system. Like we should not be avoiding updating the infrastructure because we would have a couple quarters of less growth or slight losses due to the fact that it's fucking expensive just by man hours alone to replace power lines. So, you know, it's... And I don't want to be like Doomer. The planet is not destroyed. Even, like, the planet is not destroyed. Human life will be at extreme risk, and many types of life will be at risk, but the planet has gone through all kinds of fucked up shit in the past. It's a whole ecosystem, and inevitably, probably what's going to happen is that the scale of production that we're at right now will not be sustainable. Many, many lives will be lost. We will not be able to continue having these giant data centers and having Walmart and having cars and all this stuff. Like, it will just sort of collapse on itself, and then things will sort of start to rebalance after a couple hundred years. And on a geological timescale, that's not super long. But the planet itself is not going to be destroyed. Like, let's not, you know, personally, I think that that's a little bit of an over-exaggeration, that the planet itself is at risk. Like, no, the planet itself is not at risk. Our ability to live on it is compromised and will continue to be compromised. But anyway. Okay, fair enough, Byron. Yeah. I don't think you're getting new microplastics from a buried piece of plastic. Fair. The, quote, cheapest product to do on roofs is with coal tar, which is naturally black. It's hard to keep pale shingles nice looking when you're using that kind of product. Sure, yeah. So again, yeah, it all comes back to the profit motive. It's cheap to install black roof tiles, so we keep installing black roof tiles, even though that heats up the house and it increases energy costs. Okay, fair enough, Lilat. And I'm not trying to get on your case. I'm going to be clear. I'm not trying to get on your case about it. I just want to make sure I'm being clear, and I like to make sure that we're being proportionate about the level of risk that we're engaged with. So while we are at a place of elevated risk, you know, I try not to be too doomsday about it. It's bad enough as it is, right? I feel like the situation is bad, and I want to be level with that, and I want to be proportionate with that, because I don't want to give off the impression... Like, I don't want people to feel defeated. That's the thing. It's, like, really hard to communicate these issues without some level of defeatism, which ultimately that might be why I struggle with talking about trans issues, because I have reached a level of sort of defeatism about that. That when, you know, every single time a bad law passes, right? Like, OMG, Idaho just passed a law, and this is current. Idaho just, well, I don't know if it's passed, or if it's just still working its way through. I'm not dialed into this right now. But Idaho is attempting to pass a law that would create conditions for jail time for trans people who use the bathroom that the state of Idaho doesn't think they should be using. And it seems like repeat offenders could potentially get a large amount of time in prison, like more than 5 years. Like, it's a felony offense, and if you commit multiple of the same felony, then it becomes like life in prison or whatever. So obviously, that's a concern. And I live right fucking next to Idaho. I have to drive through Idaho sometimes. Like, I'm going to be going to a wedding later this month, and I'm going to potentially have to drive through Idaho, because that seems like the best way to get out of... Yeah, I think that's probably going to be the best way for us to go. So I'm going to have to drive through Idaho. So the bathroom issue is a prescient issue for me. And, like, I think I'll be able to navigate that situation safely, but I don't know for sure. And just because I'm not a resident of Idaho doesn't mean I'm not bound by those laws, right? So it matters to me in that immediate sense. And also, the problem with it is, like, the problem with talking about it is, I go, oh, you know, well, this law is going to be challenged in the legal system, right? Where somebody is going to sue. It is happening in Kansas right now. They've passed a really restrictive bathroom bill and a restrictive driver's license bill all at once. and 2 transgender men are suing via the ACLU to stop the state of Kansas from doing this, right? So if that lawsuit is successful, let's just stick with the one in Kansas because it's an ongoing lawsuit. The law's already passed. The law already passed, ongoing lawsuit. So maybe there will be an injunction where a judge says, well, hold on, we can't enforce this law because we're in the middle of deliberating whether it's constitutional or not. And that will go through, and maybe those trans men win. You know? Maybe those trans men win. And then guess what? Fucking Chris Kobach, who's the attorney general in Kansas, or whoever is the defendant. I think it's going to be the state of Kansas as the defendant. They are going to then countersue, or not countersue, but whatever. They're going to appeal it up to the next court. So they're going to go up and up and up and up and up. And then at some point, and it's already starting to happen, these cases are going to make their way to the Supreme Court. Because if you win at a lower court, the anti-trans lobby is not going to stop there, right? Like, they're going to keep appealing it up to the Supreme Court. As far as they can go anyway. They'll be at the District Court of Appeals, and they'll go through the whole process. And then when it gets to the Supreme Court, I feel pretty confident that we're fucked. So it's part of why, like, I just don't even know how to talk about that issue anymore, because I have reached a, like, terminal doomer feeling about it, that basically no matter what, this Supreme Court for the next couple generations we are fucked over and over and over again. They're going to keep gutting climate protections. They're going to keep supporting whatever Trump does. They're going to keep, like, attacking trans rights and increasingly, like, attacking birthright citizenship status and, like, all these things. It's just going to keep happening and happening and happening. And, you know, maybe one case, the Supreme Court says, we don't want to take that case. The lower court ruled in favor of trans people, and we're just going to leave that alone. We're just not going to bother, right? But maybe there will be another case. Some other case with some other justification for attacking that same right that trans people are dealing with. And it's just going to keep coming until at some point the anti-trans lobby wins. They will not stop until they win. So I've definitely reached a point with the trans situation where I'm like, there's nothing we can really do. Like, we can keep fighting it out, and it's going to be 10 years of protracted legal battles. But, like, I just don't see anything we can do about it. Unless the next president we get decides to fucking expand the court finally. That might do something. If our next Democratic president, if we have one, is not going to be a huge piece of shit, then, like, yeah, expand the court, add more justices, and maybe we can start reversing some of these things. But, like, like I've said before, I've said it many times, and I'm probably going to keep saying it, because I don't see the situation changing. And I'm sorry that my mindset is so, you know, kind of boo about this, but I don't know that there's anything we can really do. So I'm scaling my thinking back. I'm like, what can I do personally? So I'm like, well, I personally could learn engineering and make sure that more solar gets installed or whatever. I personally can lobby for balcony solar, and then I personally can install solar panels on my house or whatever. And, like, because I rent. And, like, so the point of balcony solar is, like, you could install them in a temporary fashion on some part of your house or on the balcony or whatever. Or your patio or whatever, porch, whatever you want to call it. Like the railing on the side of your porch, for example. You don't have to have a permanent installation. You don't have to pour concrete. You don't necessarily have to drill into the building. They kind of, like, clip on or something like that. Or maybe they drill in. So, yeah, I've just scaled it back. I've scaled back my way of thinking to, well, I personally can donate money to legal funds where the ACLU is suing Kansas. Or I could personally donate to GoFundMes of trans people who are trying to leave Kansas. Like, I don't think I have structural solutions anymore, and that is really demoralizing, but I refuse to be demoralized, so I've just shifted to things that I have control over. And that's also, I think, for a lot of people, one of the ways that we manage our anxiety. We try to focus on the things that we do have some kind of tangible control over. You know, I can make my life better. I can make my partner's life better. I can spoil the shit out of my cat. I can write my congressperson, like I can call my congressperson. So, yeah, I don't know what the fuck to do anymore. Kitty has some thoughts on green roofing. Always put a false deck above the roof. More important than eliminating plastics is to eliminate incompatible plastics. We want them to become something as inert as a tiny piece of sand, which does not have the ability to start combining at molecular levels with other stuff. I shared a picture in stream chat before the stream, and it lines up really well with your comment about if a government encourages one thing or the other. Let me see what you put in the stream chat. Oh my god. Sorry, I got distracted. My partner sent me a text. Stream chat. Okay, Kitty says, I was reading an article about a Chinese drone industry, and in it they just casually dropped this picture from a flying electric car factory. Okay, let's open this up. Okay, that's kind of cool. Like a flying car. The skies are not above the law. This is the assembly line for an electric flying car at a factory last year in China, which dominates the global drone industry. That's kind of cool looking. It's like a little helicopter, like a little quadcopter. That's neat. Let's see. What else did you say? It turns out because forcing a company to recycle its batteries to exist in your country makes sense. They do end up recycling over 90% of their available batteries with a 95% overall efficiency. Also, fuck Tesla. They literally have recycling in China, but not here. Yeah, that is something that I watched a Technology Connections video recently about solar and batteries, and like we are at a place where we can totally recycle batteries, like the types of batteries that are used in solar storage stuff. So yeah, if people are concerned like, oh well, you want to talk about renewable energy, but the batteries aren't renewable, are they? Yes, they are. They can be recycled. Okay, I'm so sorry. Again, I need to drink a lot of water because I've been overheating today. I'm starting to feel a little bit better finally, but I'm gonna have to continue to drink more cold water, and I have to pee. So I'm gonna go drink water and pee, and I'll be back in a minute. Sorry. Okay, I'm back. I have cold water. I got my little ice water. Sorry about that. Had to step away. You know what's crazy is I have the AC blasting as much as I possibly can in here, and it's not even that much cooler in here. Hold on, let me fix the door. Hi, Mina thinks it's time for her to eat wet food, and it's not quite time for her to eat wet food. She definitely thinks it is, though. Poor baby. General strike actually produces change. A protest just says, we're not okay with this, but you can keep doing what you're doing. Um, so yeah, I definitely am not of the opinion that that protests are the be all end all for change. I do think that they're a good way to get people less demoralized. That if people feel as though they have people on their side, I think that's a good thing. I think it's good if people feel like they are not alone. So I do think that protests have a certain type of utility. I don't think it's the be all end all. I agree that a general strike is likely going to be more effective as far as actually putting pressure. But how do you do a general strike if you already feel like your job is insecure? That hold on. If you already know that, oh, well, you caught COVID earlier this year and you had to call out sick for like 5 days because you had a pretty serious COVID infection and you didn't want to make everybody sick at work. So you called out for an entire week earlier this year. And and your boss even told you, hey, if you have any more absences this year, with or without a doctor's note, because it's not illegal to deny you time off, even if you have a doctor's note, then you're going to lose your job. Oh, and let's say you have kids and you have health insurance through your job and you are dealing with, the potential of losing your kids' health insurance. It's not easy to just be like, oh, well, let's just do a general strike. I'm not saying we shouldn't. I'm just saying that this country has created some unique barriers to being able to strike if you have an unprotected job, like if you don't have a union. And like many unions have lost power in this country. Like, there is a massive general strike planned for May Day 2028 by some of the biggest unions in the country. I'm sorry, did you mistype, Banana Brains? Did you mean May Day 2026? Because I also thought that I saw some people talking about a general strike May this year, as in like 4 weeks from now. Yeah, that day I'm going to be traveling because I'm going to a wedding and the wedding is on May 1st. So, yeah. I don't know. I wouldn't be working that day, but I don't think that I would be able to not make any purchases that day because I'm going to be traveling. 2028. Wow. What good is a strike in 2028 going to do us when Trump is already going to be dead or like almost out of office by then? Sorry. It's not anybody's fault here. Let's keep the vibes low and chill because I'm going to overheat otherwise. But yeah, that seems too far away. Yikes, bud. What a fun name. Stoked to stumble upon your live. Love the work you're doing. Big fan up here in the PNW, Canada. As an adult trans man, I feel so invisible sometimes. Thanks for making sure we stay in the convo. Thank you. I'm glad that you're able to hang out. I do regularly stream on Sundays and also typically Wednesdays, although I might cut back to only doing Sundays. So this is the regular time, regular bat channel that we're here. So I'm glad that, you feel good about having some representation. We've been talking this whole stream about the difficulties with when like structural inequities are basically insurmountable, like when all of the people in the most power are just declining to help you, right? Like talking about the earthquake, the big earthquake that we're supposed to have in the PNW. I don't know what I will do in that situation because I know that FEMA has been undercut and like you are desperately reliant on large social systems to help you in that situation. So it's like, God forbid the federal government stops helping. Like, to be fair, it helps a little bit that I live in a liberal state, like a blue state, relatively blue anyway, that probably the local government will mobilize to the extent that it's possible to help people. But yeah, like in some ways we are sort of reliant on the systems. That's the whole fucking point of having a society. The whole point of having a society is that you have systems built in to help people when there are structural failures. And yeah, it's like, holy shit, what are we supposed to do about this? Oh boy. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. We should be partnering with France to start making the switch to hydrogen. The previous highest producer of oil, Saudi Arabia, has been consistently producing less each year for over a decade now. They've been putting a ton of money into becoming a hydrogen-based economy. Just because America is not being great, we can't miss that the rest of the world is like, bruh. True. And right, like because I've been in this mindset of like thinking about electrical engineering and stuff and renewable energy and all this, my RSS feed has been full recently of discussions about the oil crisis and the price of gasoline skyrocketing, and how in the year 2025 in America there was a reduced consumption of electric vehicles because Trump got rid of some tax benefit for purchasing electric vehicles. And so there was like a dip in the purchasing of electric vehicles in 2025, but that this current crisis is illuminating that there is a real need, to move toward renewable energies, because then we won't be reliant on countries in the Middle East for oil production. There will not be as much incentive to pillage other countries for their oil reserves if we move toward a renewable model. And it's not just one thing. We don't put all our eggs in one basket, right? We have solar and hydroelectric and wind energy. And like, there has been some discussion recently about offshore wind. So, people always like, oh, these wind farms, they make all this weird high-pitched noise and they kill the birds and everything. Not really any evidence of that, but like, oh, they disrupt the migration patterns of the birds, whatever. Okay, there's whatever. I'm just acknowledging that there are complaints, but we have the option to build wind farms in the ocean, like off the coast. And so that Trump has specifically been trying to stop that from happening in order to preserve oil reliance. Like, it's so fucking irritating. And this, how old is he in his 80s now? Hold on. This fucking septuagenarian, he just had a birthday, I guess. This septuagenarian is making all these decisions for this man who has all the symptoms of stage 4 frontotemporal dementia. Stage 4 dementia. That's the last phase, by the way. Stage 4 dementia is like making all these decisions for what? To preserve profits at the end of the day, to preserve profit in the oil industry. And on this particular issue, Democrats are a little bit better. They're not better enough. Kamala was pro fucking fracking and she wanted to expand domestic oil production. Like, okay, I just want to be clear. When I'm bitching about Kamala, to be clear, I voted for Kamala. I lived in Kansas and it made no difference. And I voted for her anyway, because I think it's important to have the numbers that say, hey, the popular vote went this way and the electoral college went this way. So I voted for her, even though I was upset and I didn't want to. But during the debate, the like one debate that she did with Trump, they asked a question about energy and maybe even jobs, like, and she did not say, yo, if we expand our renewable energy, that will create jobs and it will make us less reliant on other countries. No, what she said was, I want to expand domestic oil production and fracking. Bitch, that should have lost my, like, legitimately, that should have been it. That should have been, nope, I'm not voting for you. That should have lost my vote. Um, I genuinely think that that's one of the most horrendous things that she said in the entire campaign. And I don't know, maybe like, tell me if I'm wrong to feel that way. But I legitimately was like, holy fucking shit. How could you? I was pissed. Like the face that I made while I was watching the debate was just like, legitimately, I was like, that's literally disgusting. Canada just made a deal with China, allowing a certain amount of Chinese electric vehicles into Canada a year at only a 6%. Stoked to see how that helps us. Yeah, I'm excited that at least, one of my neighbor countries is doing things that make sense. I have an appreciation for that. I wouldn't change a thing with regards to Gaza happening is probably worse. I mean, okay, yes, but okay, I want to be clear. What's been happening in Gaza is horrific in a very confronting manner. You know, like it's in an immediate confronting manner. But do we have any ability to even fathom on an intellectual level how many children will die from drowning because of floods? How many children will die from heat related illness because of climate change? Like, I don't know if I think I've talked about this before. I know someone whose children, his little boys, neither of them, I think they were both like younger than 8 years old. Both of his little boys drown during Hurricane Helene, like a couple years back. His children were with his ex-wife and her partner, and all four of them died. They were swept away in the flooding, and they all drowned to death. So it's like, yes, what's happening in Gaza is bad, but not stopping climate change is going to hurt so many more people in the same types of like horrific confronting ways. It's like, I guess it's like more constant as well. The news out of Gaza, especially if you were on Twitter in around October 7th, like I was still on Twitter at that time. I'm not anymore. I still have an account there, but I don't really go there. It was like every day you were seeing it, right? And we are going to get to a point where it's every day climate change killed children. And like the bodies of children washing up on shores and stuff. Like it's going to be fucked in a very similar, like gut-wrenching kind of way. And it's going to impact the entire global south. So again, I do agree that her basically being like, yeah, we're going to continue funding Israel's genocide in Gaza is bad. It's just like different scales of the same bad thing happening. And this one tiny little part of the world, while it is significant that bad thing is happening there.
Psychoplebalian got a tier 1 subscription. I don't often visit Stream Chat, but I thought I should support one of my favorite trans streamers. Thanks for hanging in there, less than 3.
Thank you very much for the tier 1 sub. Was that a 1 month or did you get a 3 months? Because I want to be accurate with how much we put on the thing. But I know it. Listen, if y'all are hurting for money, don't worry about me. I'm doing okay. But I appreciate your donations. And if we get to $100 today, I will flex my biceps. That's the plan anyhow. That's so true. Wow, that's really eloquently put. Quantum Chaos says climate change will be experienced by a series of cell phone videos that get closer and closer until you're the one holding the phone. True. Right. And even looking at the big one, the earthquake situation here. I think that earthquakes and volcanic activity are also accelerated by warming temperatures. So like between fires and flooding and increased storm intensity and literal tectonic activity, it will affect you personally in some kind of deep and tragic way eventually. It's one of the lines in well, actually, okay, you guys know Bo Burnham's Inside and the song That Funny Feeling, there were a couple of parts of that song that it's like it's hard for me to sing along with the song without choking up and crying. The biggest one is like a gift shop at the gun range, a mass shooting at the mall. Like I literally can't even say the line where I'm like, I'm gonna cry. But the other one is like the whole world at your fingertips, the ocean at your door. Like it's coming. It's coming. And it sucks. And, you know, we just need to do our best to bolster our communities. And we're already seeing lots of positive examples of this where the people on the ground are helping each other. The people in Minnesota helping each other directly, setting up these systems where, you know, obviously it's bad that the situation is happening in the first place. It shouldn't be happening. We shouldn't be having to react this way. But the fact that we're like bringing groceries to people's houses and walking their children home from school so that the parents don't get abducted waiting at the bus stop. You know, that we have these brigades with whistles and people standing outside prepared to physically defend their neighbors, to physically unarrest their neighbors. That is, I think, an example that we should look to that, you know, structure and society and community does not end with the government. There is no collective action. There is no public health. There is no public safety without a lot of individual actions. And that means we come together and we do things to protect our communities. Like being reliant on the government at the end of the day, you know, we should be able to rely on the government. And I'm not saying that we shouldn't. That's the whole fucking point of a government. But, well, at least it should be. Hypothetically, it should be. In practice, that's not the case. But it feels like the point of a government is to take care of as many people as possible to maintain the public good. But when those institutions do not meet our needs, that isn't the end of the question. Like, that isn't the end of the conversation. And yes, I've heard this, that Minnesota, like, ICE has not left. We've just sort of stopped talking about it as much. I'm aware that there is still community action. It is still not good on the ground. I did just see a post on my news feed that said basically that like ICE is trying some quieter tactics now. But again, I think that that's just because algorithms were tweaked to deprioritize ICE related posts showing how bad things are there. So I don't want to undercut that in any way, that ICE is still very much terrorizing those neighborhoods. Still happening here where I live. There are actually quite like a large number of Mexican Americans or immigrants or whatever living in the Willamette Valley in Portland and all the surrounding cities. And we are still concerned about parents being abducted while waiting for their children at the bus stop. And you reflect on Anne Frank's diary, the part where she says, you know, children come home to find their houses empty and their parents abducted. And, you know, there's that famous photo of the little boy with the bunny ears and how the enforcement officers used that child as bait effectively to like abduct the dad. And then the dad and the boy ended up in a detention camp in Texas. And I think that they're still there, or maybe they did get finally moved. Again, I'm not keeping my finger on the pulse of this news as much because it's like, what the fuck point is there to me knowing all of this information all the time? When you're like, I can't do anything about it. I don't want to just spread despair. That's not helpful. Like, what's effective in this situation, right? Like, if we take a DBT perspective on this, what emotions are effective in the situation? Sometimes it's not about whether the emotions are correct, because despair is a proportional reaction to this situation, to all the situation, trans rights, immigrants, climate, war, genocide, like all these things. Despair is a proportional reaction. I ask the question, is that an effective framework? Is that helping us accomplish anything? Even anger, you guys, even anger might not be an effective emotion to be experiencing at this time. Because anger is exhausting. Anger can be, you know, it can be fuel to help motivate you. It can be a motivator. It can get you off your feet, but it's not sustainable. because you burn out. You stop being angry and then you're tired, and then the despair creeps in. So it's just a question of like what approach is actually going to help us accomplish anything. Anything. You and I don't have to save the world. We just have to accomplish something. Like my skill is like I have persuasive public speaking skills. And I have the wherewithal to apply myself to basically anything that I decide that I'm going to do. I mean, with some limitations, obviously. Like I have ADHD and I'm in the process of treating whatever physical disability I have. Whatever. So, you know, just doing what you can and feeling good sometimes, also very important. I am almost completely off social media. I've been a little bit bad this week with my Facebook consumption, but I'm mostly getting my news through an RSS feed. So what that basically means is I'm getting my news from NPR, largely my NPR news, and then, you know, locally the Oregonian, Aaron in the Morning for Trans News, Pink News UK for, you know, general like broader news. I follow Taylor Lorenz's newsletter. That's also quite good information in my opinion. And, you know, other RSS stuff that I have, like Energy and Water. Oh, from Clean Technica, a bunch of stuff about electric vehicles and solar photovoltaics and the whole problem with the wind, off-coast wind farming situation. So that's kind of I'm limiting myself to that level of consumption. I need to find some better ways to get more local news. Like there's like local mayoral elections or like other local city council elections and stuff that I haven't really found a good replacement for Facebook, because a lot of campaigns do post on Facebook and, you know, like, oh, that guy said he would vote for Trump 3 more times. So, oh, okay, that's not a guy that I want to vote into my local government. And maybe I wouldn't have even known about that if it wasn't for Facebook. So I would like to find ways to still get local news on tap. But I do still think this is better. I spent this entire week putting together this giant Lego set that's almost as tall as I am. Not really. It's like a little bit of an exaggeration, but... And I play with my cat, and I hang out with my partner and stuff, and being able to do those things without feeling guilt also, I think is important. Like viewing those types of rest and restoration as a necessary component of your work, like a necessary component of getting the work done. So yeah, and I've got other shit I gotta do. I gotta like fucking pay my taxes. Do you have any idea how bad it is that I have to pay like $3,000 to the government right now for taxes? Like on some level I'm like, what would happen if I put that money in an escrow account instead of sending it to the government? Like, I'm not going to send any money to the federal government until we have not fucking Trump in office and ideally a Democrat. It's like, can I just not pay those taxes for like 3 years? Because I would like to. Like, I would really prefer not to be funding all of this bullshit. But yeah, I'm also not really trying to go to prison for like tax evasion or whatever the fuck. Like, I don't know what the words are. It's not tax evasion, but you know what I mean. It's like one of those terms. There is only a future if you keep building your own. Yeah. Truly. So just doing what we can. Doing what we can with what resources we have. Interestingly, this stream is not performing very well. We only have like 37 people here, but we have over 100 likes. So that's like 70 people have come in and said, yeah, I don't want to be here. But they hit the like and then they left. As long as you are holding the funds in an account, you are technically allowed to protest that way. Well, shit. Maybe I'll look into that in the next week. Because, yeah, I've got to, like, submit those taxes here soon. And that's frustrating. Dude, I'll pay all the Oregon income tax. I have no idea. I haven't even started the Oregon part of my income taxes. But, yeah, I've heard that they really fuck you. But listen, I feel like we get good public services here. And I want to see those public services expand. So I'm more than happy to pay for that. Easter do be like that, I guess. Yeah, that's one of the weird things about the fact that I don't notice or care about those kind of holidays. Like, even if I had a kid, I would be celebrating Easter type things like 2 weeks ago when Ostara came and went, like when the spring equinox came and went. Yeah, 2 weeks ago. So I'm like, oh yeah, I guess it's Easter. None of you here are doing family stuff today, are you? Is anybody here going to do family stuff later? I took an impromptu trip to the store for apples. I regret complaining about winter. LMAO. What are we up to now? Yeah, we're just talking about shit. Yeah, don't even get me started on the gig economy with DoorDash and everything. Y'all have a family? Yeah, I don't, like, interact with my family that much. Although I've been having lots of dreams lately about, okay, I'm not really talking to my dad very much right now because I'm super pissed at him. I don't really talk to my mom at all. I don't really talk to any of my conservative family. But I kind of am starting to feel like, oh, I need some closure around these issues because I keep having dreams with my dad or with my mom or with other family members, and there's like clearly some subconscious unsettlement there where, you know, in the past I was just like, yeah, I don't really need any of these people, but maybe I'm craving some types of like familiarity and connection. I don't know, it's really cringe though. If by family stuff you mean I bought my kids some candy and then definitely totally doing so much family stuff. Yeah. Totally. Hello, Cliff. Welcome in. How everyone do be do. I'm starting to feel better. I still feel like a little bit of that head swimmingness that you get when you're a little bit overheated. Because I am still a little bit overheated. But I've got my air conditioner blowing as high as it is physically capable of going. And I'm hoping that it will keep things cool in here. Oh, it is cooling down. It was like 75 when I was pointing this at the wall earlier, and now it's 74 and a half. So it is starting to cool down in my office. Like the AC, I don't really understand how they work. I probably should educate myself a little bit. I might need to clean the filters and stuff in my AC, but it's like it turns on for a little bit and then it turns off. And I'm like, yeah, but what if you stayed on though? You know what I mean? Like what? But what if you stayed on though? I took my pups and they got to romp around with their cousins and aunts and uncles. Hell yeah, I went to my mom's earlier. Nice. I'm super lucky to have my mom and grandma and brother nearby, and we have good relationships. Yeah. That's the other thing, too, is I move very far away from any of my family. So even the family that I want to talk to, like, they either live in Kansas or, like, Illinois or something. So, yeah. Yeah, it is. It would be strange to have dreams about a family member who had already passed away, too. I am fortunate that I'm mostly, like, I mean, my parents were teenagers when I was born, so I haven't yet gotten to that place where I'm like, oh, all my grandparents are starting to die. Like, my great-grandparents, I've been around for a couple of my great-grandparents passing, but so far, none of my grandparents yet, and it's going to be interesting when we start having to deal with that. Like, one of my partner's grandparents has passed. So, yeah. It's crazy. What else is going on? I feel like I've exhausted all of my those kinds of politics thoughts. Is there anything else that has happened in the last week, politics-wise, that we could talk about? Obviously, like, Pam Bondi got fired, but I don't really feel like there's a lot that I can say about that. Like, yeah, I'm glad I don't have to see your fucking mug anymore. That was my response when Jimmy told me about it. He texted me like, oh, we got to talk about Pam Bondi today. And I was like, oh, okay, well, at least I don't have to fucking look at her face anymore. exhausted the dialogue options, have we? I'm really good at coming up with things to talk about, but sometimes you do kind of after almost 2 hours reassigned, not even fired. Oh, I thought that Pam Bondi was let go, that Trump said something like, she's transitioning to a role in the private sector, which means she does not have a government job anymore. Seeing her photo in the trash can made me giggle. Yeah, that's fair. Ooh, like what else is going on? What's up? I'm just looking. Is there any news that matters to us that we should talk about? Whoa. Clicked something by accident. Yeah, saying that she's transitioning into a role in the private sector is government speak for saying that she was fired. Yeah. It's like, what else have I done? I had a great weekend last weekend. I know that I saw you all on Wednesday, so I kind of already talked about it a little bit. Now that it's been installed for about a week, can I just say, I love having a bidet. It's really awesome. Like, it just... there's still like a little bit of a learning curve around it, but I'm already like pretty pleased. It's like a really basic bidet too. So yeah, I'm excited about that little change in my life. Got a bidet. Finished this big fucking Lego set. I already showed off some of my minifigs to you guys. So you've already seen my minifigs, but... Did I show you the light? Here, I'll show you the light really quick. Make sure. Here, I'll go ahead and do it this way so that you all can see. Okay, here we go. He lights up. It's only on a momentary switch though, so you can't like flick it on and have it stay on for a while. So anyway, that's very exciting to me. Baradur. My partner also joked like, oh haha, we could get the Rivendell set and do that one together next. Except that that's another like $600 or whatever that we don't have right this moment, especially again with the tax situation. Okay, what was that? Okay, yeah. That was a $12 donation earlier from Andy. Thank you. Let me add that here. $12 toward our $100 goal today. Listen, if you all got a tax return, some of us don't get tax returns because we're self-employed. Pitch me $5, you know? I would appreciate it. This is still technically my job. Like, and I will say too, as far as like incentives and time spent goes, the less donations I get on stream, the less like I'm gonna prioritize doing this as part of my job, especially when I make like a decent chunk of money from working with Jimmy. Ooh, my rich friends have a bidet that is remote controlled for some reason and it shoots out warm water. Oh, nice. Mine has a little thing on the side of the toilet that is like a little handle that you just like, it's like down here like this and you twist it. And how much you twist it it changes how much water pressure it has. And there's one that goes one direction and one that goes the other direction. And so there's like the one for your butthole area and then there's a one for like the front area. And yeah, it's been good. I enjoy it. I understand why people might want a warm water one, but it really doesn't bother me that much. It's like, room temperature water or the temperature of the water sitting in the pipes right next to the toilet. So it's honestly not too bad. That part doesn't bother me as much as I would have expected because it's not like cold water. It's not shockingly cold water that's, when you turn on the cold faucet and eventually it starts hurting your fingers by how cold it is because it's coming from deeper in the ground. And, it's like 50-degree water or what have you. It's not so bad. And I know people do all kinds of crazy stuff with their toilets. They get like They get the like little cushioned seats and like little like lights and like a little self-cleaning situation. I don't think that this bidet even has a self-cleaning situation. It's only cold first thing in the morning. Yeah. Eggy Jones, thank you for the membership. I don't typically add memberships to the donation goal for the day, but you know what? We're not getting that many donations today, so just for the sake of pumping up the numbers, that's another $5, bringing us up to 17 for today, and the goal today is that I will flex my biceps when we hit the donation goal. If we hit the donation goal, we still have a little bit over an hour to do that. Yeah. Just responding to my partner there. What was I in the middle of doing? I was in the middle of doing something. Oh, I was bringing my chat back, and I pulled up Discord instead of my chat window. Okay, cool. But yeah, thank you so much, Eggy Jones, for the memberships. I do want to start doing more with the memberships and the Patreon. I don't really know what that is yet. I'm in the middle of brewing some ideas of what I want to do next with the channel or with my online presence in general, and thereby, you know, maybe like I want to start. Anytime I want to talk about a movie, instead of starting a second channel and posting my movie takes there, maybe I'll just post them as patron-only videos. And therefore, I don't have to worry so much about refining them or editing them or whether they're going to get copyright struck or what have you. Like, or whether they're going to make money is like, oh, you know, maybe people will subscribe specifically for dumb shit like that. Or like, I want to post, I've been meaning to post more pictures of Mina on the Patreon. And I probably should cross-post that to the memberships, because honestly, I don't really do very much for the memberships. And I thank you all, those of you who've subscribed on the memberships on YouTube, even though you don't get a huge benefit from that. You get a name in the chat with a cool color, and you get access to like a few custom emojis. But like, if you just come to the website, there's more custom emojis over here. So, yeah, I appreciate y'all's support in every way that you can give it. Even if you're just hitting the like button, you know, it's quick, it's easy, it's free, and I appreciate that level of support. Even just hanging out here. If there's not people in the chat, there's not really much for me to talk about. I will inevitably exhaust my words if there isn't a response in chat. So I appreciate even those who are just kind of hanging out. It makes things easier. Why do I have the impulse to go to Facebook in the middle of the stream? What am I going to find over here? What am I going to find over here? What's over here for me? Nothing's over here for me. Get out of here. Get rid of some notifications on my phone. Get out of here. Get out of here. Yeah, the website's luxander.net/live if you want to come to the live. It's also the best place to donate if you want to donate directly to me, because super chats do like a big portion of your money goes directly to Google and YouTube rather than going to me. If you donate through the website, then you just get the PayPal fees, which is pretty nominal. But yeah, we like having a little website. I haven't updated it in forever or done anything. Actually, does it still on the front page say that it's under construction? Because I've asked White Nervosa like several times to fix that, and it never happens. Does it? Yeah, it still says website under construction on the front page of my website, and that is something that has been that way for 4 years. Like, hey, will you fix that? But also, like, I don't know. I think that I was supposed to start paying White Nervosa, and she was billing me on PayPal, and then she stopped billing me on PayPal. So, like, maybe do I owe White Nervosa a bunch of money? Possibly. Bro, speaking of casting to my TV, I got one of the first Chromecasts, and it is dying. It's like overheating on a regular basis. So I'm probably going to have to get a new Chromecast or some other device to cast to my TV. Because it's fairly regularly we're like, oh yeah, let me pull something up on my phone and like cast it to the television. And yeah, it's just getting harder to do. Also, I have like the Amazon Prime Video app on my phone because I'll be wanting to watch like Invincible or some movie on Amazon Prime, and then I want to do it like on the TV, or sorry, maybe even just I want to watch this on my phone, but for some reason Amazon Prime Video on the phone, it doesn't suspend the thing on the phone where your screen turns off after like 20 seconds. And of course I know I can change that setting within my phone, but I don't want to change the setting within my phone. I want Amazon Prime Video to stop turning my screen off after 15 seconds. Like, why is it not like fucking, why can I not watch a video on Amazon Prime Video because it wants to turn off my screen? It's really stupid. So yeah, you know, it's either cast it to my TV or like I borrow my partner's laptop sometimes if I want to watch something while I'm hanging out in the living room. It's just annoying. Ooh, I just realized that my voice is really tired. Yeah, that happens sometimes when you talk for 2 consecutive hours. Have you flipped around in pronouns a bunch before settling down more? I personally, I guess there was a period of time where I was kind of flip-flopping around about not about hormones, Jesus, about pronouns. Like, for a little bit, I liked the Spivak pronouns, which are, it's like they, them, but you take the TH off, so it's AM. I liked those for a little while. Obviously, I've gone by they, them pronouns largely for the last, like, decade plus. And then more recently, I was like, oh, let's try out its pronouns. And I've kind of backed off of that a little bit just because, like, it's very confronting to use its pronouns. And I like it, but I don't know if I dislike they, them pronouns enough to be like, stop calling me they, them and only call me by its pronouns. Which maybe, like, I should update this because I know that this down here still says its. Maybe I should change that to say, like, they, them. But yeah, when I first started doing the streaming, I was leaning hard into the its pronouns. So yeah, I think it's, like, normal when you're trans and going through the process of coming out to not be 100% sure, or to, like, want to... Like, you need people to use those pronouns to understand if you like them or not, right? So it kind of falls into that same thing of that recommendation of, oh, go to Starbucks or someplace that doesn't suck, but like tell them the name that you prefer or that you want to try out. And when they call your name to come pick up your coffee, kind of gauge how you feel about it. So like, I understand that with pronouns, like it's kind of the similar thing where you might not know which ones you really prefer until you get some experience with people referring to you that way. And then that's information that helps you determine whether you want to continue forward with those pronouns. So I think that makes perfect sense, where you're like, I'll try this out for a little bit and see how it lands, and maybe you decide to change your mind. And I don't think there's anything bad about that. You know, whether you're trans or you're cis or you're non-binary or you're not sure or whatever, I think it makes sense to try things out a little bit and gauge how you feel and then proceed. And then, you know, maybe in 10 years, you'll feel differently, right? Like, I changed my name years ago and now I feel differently. So I've changed it. Like, you know, it's a process, obviously, to make those kind of legal changes and stuff, or even just asking people in your life to use a different name. You know, my partner has been going by his middle name since very early in our relationship, and his family members still call him by his first name. So, yeah, it's whatever. D&D rocks for trying out pronouns. That's true too. You could cosplay as a character or role play as a character that uses different pronouns than you, and like see how that makes you feel. Because I imagine that there's some level of potentially dysphoria if you're playing as a gender that you don't identify with. Like sometimes people probably just find it fun, but I imagine that there might be some kind of dysphoria, euphoria element where maybe the character that you're playing is your, oh, I wish that I was like this in real life person. And then yeah, and it helps you kind of inform. Water is delicious. We love water. Role-playing games in general, personally, I'm a fan of GURPS. What is GURPS? GORPS? Generic Universal Role-Playing System. A tabletop role-playing system published by Steve Jackson Games, designed to run any genre using the same core mechanics. Cool. Oh, so I guess like D&D has a specific sort of fantasy element to it. So GURPS is designed to be able to run other types of, like, you know, maybe you want to do something more sci-fi or something more horror based rather than sticking in that sort of medieval fantasy setting. That's cool. That's neat. I do like the idea of doing tabletop gaming. I don't have like it's not something that my close friends are really into. Well, that's not true. My friend Dizzy, not the Dizzy that's in chat right now, but my friend Dizzy does, I think, at least one tabletop thing. And it's just, I don't know any people who do it. And like, I definitely don't want to DM that thing, so. Aggie says, I think I hate the idea of having a name, but I was considering the name Cadigan because it's almost a placeholder name, sort of like Thingamajig. Yeah, that's interesting. I know some people are, you know, I don't like to be referred to. That's kind of a vibe that some people have, so. Yeah. I like the more realistic approach to stats and skills in GURPS versus D&D. Okay, neat. Yeah, I knew a guy once who, he said, yeah, he plays D&D, but he plays with some modifications. For example, one of his big things, he was a veteran, so one of his big things was the way that arrow damage is done in D&D. He was like, no, in my system, you take way more damage from arrows because in realistic times, like in a real sense, taking an arrow to the shoulder would fuck your shit up for like a few weeks to a month. And like probably cause permanent damage to the joint depending on where it hits and everything. So yeah, or like blood loss, or, you know, how effective can you be throughout the rest of the battle? How much HP should you lose? Yeah, I know some people have issues, but I also recognize that it's kind of part of the premise of D&D that the quote humans in D&D are more resilient than actual human beings in the way that like movie humans are more resilient, right? Like I probably have a completely incorrect assumption of, well, not at this time, but like movies give a completely incorrect assumption about how much damage a human person can take before they have like serious brain damage or before they're incapacitated by blood loss and things like this. Yeah, nothing says realism like high fantasy, truly. So there is a little bit of, you know, the beings, whether they're human or not, in a tabletop setting, much like in any fantasy, which, like, you can broadly say that any movie is a type of fantasy, or any TV show or whatever, that those elements are, like, not realistic. Because the stakes would obviously be much higher if one thing could knock somebody out, right? Like, I don't know. We were watching Stephen King movie Misery. And at the end of the movie, spoilers. Well, I don't know, whatever. Spoilers, like, yeah, whatever. In the movie, somebody gets hit in the head a lot of times and keeps coming. And I was like, wow, that's deeply unrealistic. But then in Star Wars Andor, I felt there was a very realistic depiction of somebody having multiple head traumas and how that would impact them in an immediate sense and how quickly would they be incapacitated by that. So I felt that was a much better representation. But yeah, if somebody's getting nailed in the head multiple times by like something that weighs 50 pounds, I'm like, there's no fucking way. Like, genuinely, there's no way. GURP makes more distinctions between concussive, slashing, and piercing damage. Okay, cool. Honestly, you usually died of an infection if an arrow actually got you, but armor was quite effective at stopping them a lot of the time if you could afford the good stuff. Right, there's a lot of assumptions in there. If you could afford the good stuff, and if you even had armor, and also, like, how powerful of a bow is it? Like, okay, yeah, plate armor can probably stand up well to a 200-pound bow, but, like, is your chainmail gonna hold up to a fucking... Is your leather jerkin gonna hold up to an arrow shot from a 200-pound bow? Not really. Although, I guess to be fair, a 200-pound bow, you're not necessarily firing directly into the enemies. You're more using that for, like, distance, to get, like, a distance, and then the, like, arc, and then they fall onto the tops of your enemies. Whatever. Medieval war tactics are something of an interest of mine. But yeah. Helmets are so underutilized in pop culture fiction, I guess so we can see the actor's face/head. Yeah, no, it is like a primary reason. I was watching Invincible, the episode from last week. Not the last week, the one before that, the episode 2 weeks ago, week and a half ago. And I was thinking about, the animation costs and how this character was wearing a helmet, but they kept taking the helmet off whenever they talked. And I was like, but you could save money on the whole moving your face and lips part of the animation if you just leave the helmet on. I don't know why I thought that was so funny. How cold is it in here? Oh, the temperature's coming down more. Okay. Cool. It's like the cold air actually is making my skin a little bit cold. Even that's the weirdest and worst part of having temperature regulation problems is you'll be like standing in front of the cold air conditioner or in front of the fan or whatever, because you're trying desperately to cool down the inside of your body, but then the outside of your body, like your skin, is cold, and that is unpleasant in its own type of way. So yeah, I guess I'm starting to feel a little bit better though. But yeah, the reason why a lot of the time you don't have helmets is because you're paying good money for that actor, so you might as well see their face. And also, I saw a movie director on YouTube say that the most important aspect of special effects is the close-up shot of a person's face, because like the human emotion and expression, it conveys so much. So it's like the most important, quote, special effect asset that you have is your actors doing their job. It's been difficult to adjust to fluctuating climate at this time of year. I'm inside a lot of the time. I don't like go outside. So, we've talked about it way earlier in the stream. I'm just dealing with the fact that my building is baking in the sun. So it's like warmer inside my house than it is outside. Obnoxious. Delicious. Water is good. Oh yeah, the Olympic Committee has decided to make female athletes undergo sex testing in order to compete in the women's category. I'm reading an article right now from Pink News where Caster Semenya, who you all may have heard, she has some kind of intersex condition, and she is now not able to fully participate in the running that she was doing before. Like, she can do some running sports, but not all of the ones that she used to do. Because she refuses to take like medicine to lower her levels of testosterone or something. Jesus fucking Christ. Can we get this figured out? Jesus. Come here. My little lower platform on my chair is being funny right now. Okay, there we go. Yeah, the International Committee, and this is so annoying because this was one of the... It's so hard when the governing bodies want to start doing the stupid things, because we know that for the past 25 years, trans women have been allowed to participate in the Olympics with certain restrictions, like they have to have a blood level of testosterone below a certain number, and they have to be on hormones for a number of years, like 2 years or something. And in all that 25 years, that quarter of a freaking century, only one trans woman has competed, and she did not win. She didn't even place. So the fact that the Olympic Committee is now saying, like, oh, we're doing one-time gene screening sex tests for women's category only, also worth noting that it's about the women's category only, that, okay, yeah, so any athlete found to have the SRY gene, which is typically found on the Y chromosome, would be deemed not biologically female and therefore ineligible to compete in the women's categories. Just reading from Pink News here. Yeah, it's like, fucking... What's the point of this? The billiards ban on trans women is absolutely wild. Yeah, I've heard, like, that snooker... What even is snooker? I can't remember what snooker is. Okay, so snooker is like pool. And, like, snooker, I saw in the UK just made it to where, like, trans women can't participate in the women's category. It's like, god fucking damn it. There's no good reason for any of this shit. Just, like, curtailing people's ability to participate in public life for no fucking reason. And yeah, so we're about to have, like, a bunch of basically career-ending genetic testing for women who had no idea that they were intersex. Like, the presence of an SRY gene, you know, you could have total androgen insensitivity. Basically, your body doesn't respond at all to testosterone, and it won't matter. You have an SRY gene, guess what? You're biologically male, and that means you can't participate as a woman. Please correct me. Like, by the way, I'd like to know people's opinions. When I say career ending, it's first of all because, like, I feel like going to the Olympics is sort of the end goal for a professional athlete like that. Like, you're pushing and pushing and pushing to higher and higher echelons of the sport. And obviously, if the Olympic Committee declares that you're biologically male, then also many lower level, like, less prestigious aspects of sport are probably also going to increase the screening. They're going to reference the IOC as, like, here's a reason why we're going to continue screening and like differentiating. So, like, a woman who is a female who has no idea that she might have an SRY gene, maybe it's inactive, like, whatever, that, like, how is that not career ending? Like, am I wrong for saying that that's a career ending thing that we're doing? And also, like, denying the dignity of these women. Like, many of these women may have given birth, right? If we test, fuck, what is her name? Fuck. Shit. Serena Williams, the tennis player? Is that Serena Williams? Serena Williams had a baby. If she has an SRY gene, it's like, oh, she's suddenly not able to participate anymore? She literally gave birth to a baby. Like, I don't know. Fucking... It's just really dumb. And now every woman who attempts to participate has to do an invasive genetic test. And someone called in this week and asked, like, what's the difference between testing for this genetic abnormality versus testing for doping of, like, steroids or whatever? And it's like, well, there is, like, some evidence at least to suggest that doping confers an unfair advantage, and it's a choice. It's a thing that you do and you could stop doing to stop getting the advantage. Um, but like this gene, we have no evidence that this confers an advantage. And it's not something that people are choosing to do. So nobody's like, oh yeah, let me get into the women's sport. Like, I don't know. It's just fucking stupid. Not at all wrong. The Olympics is the peak of their careers, and if that's taken away, they are kind of blacklisted. That's my opinion. Yeah, that's like that's the position that I kind of take on it. So it's really stupid. And of course, so yeah, Castro Semenya is speaking out against this, and so is non-binary track star Nikki Hiltz, who says attacks on trans people have consistently led to more policing and regulation of all women's bodies. Everyone is hurt by transphobia. Y'all already know where I stand on this, but his policy is so fucking stupid. It is not solving a problem that exists. I don't know who needs to hear this, but 0 trans women competed in the Paris Olympics. Only 1 trans woman weightlifter competed in Tokyo 2021, and she did not win a medal. Can we please stop obsessing over trans people? And IDK maybe focus our time, energy, and resources into real problems women's sports face. Yeah. Could we not address the issues of funding women's sports, or like putting some dignity in women's sports, like, you know, celebrating women's sports the way that we celebrate male athletes? You know, I think that it was some male tennis player who was asked in an interview about like, oh, you're the first to get gold. And he was like, actually, Serena Williams got gold. So, you know, just want to put some respect on that woman's name. I can't remember the exact situation, but that's the kind of allyship that we need from cis men, for sure. Dizzy says, my brother reached the Olympic level in Taekwondo, and he had some grief going on and kind of crashed out and didn't end up going, and he can't get back in anywhere. Not that he's trying, but it was made clear. Right. I guess it's a career-ending situation. Jesus Christ. Oh boy. I know that not everybody cares about the sports thing. And like, honestly, I don't care about sports either. I don't play sports. I don't watch sports. It's just a fundamental dignity thing where, you know, we can't just brush it off like it doesn't matter, because it does. It's an issue of public participation, and it's an issue of dignity. And like, didn't the UN establish that being able to participate in sports is like one of the human rights? Obviously, it's not like as prescient of a human right as like access to food or something, but it's not nothing. Doesn't just happen in sports, happens in science too. Wait, what do you mean? Like segregating trans people out? I don't know what you mean. Do people not realize that sex is variable as gender? Yeah, well, anytime you bring that up, they're like, well, that's an aberration. It's like, no, well, but it matters. We talked to a guy on Takis this week who tried to say that, you know, we were talking about the bathroom access issue. And we were like, okay, well, if chromosomes determine which bathroom you get to use, where does a person with XXY chromosomes go to the bathroom? And he kept being like, oh, well, that's just a fringe case. You know, that it's like, yeah, okay, but that's if we go with the most conservative estimate of how many intersex Americans there are, that is 3.5 million people. 3.5 million people on the most conservative estimate. Where do they pee? Where do they pee? It's an issue that affects people's actual lives. Like, we need to have rules that apply equally to everyone. People claim it's an outlier and like, oh yeah, really, so are trans people, but you're all worried about laws for us. Yeah. I guess they're basically like, we shouldn't change the normative situation for a minority, but like, it still doesn't change the fact that that minority needs public access and deserves to be able to exist in public. Oh, there's this idea in science that we should ignore fringe cases that prove people wrong, but do focus on fringe cases that scare people. Okay, I see what you mean. I see what you mean. There's a very highly recommended book on quantum physics, quantum mechanics for students, which has an entire chapter on the relationship between conservation laws and symmetries, which is a proven theorem called Noether's theorem, which was proven by Emmy Noether, and guess whose name is not even mentioned in the chapter? Fucking true. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. I'm really glad that I have these noise canceling headphones. They're not like completely blocking out the sound of my AC, but it is making it like tolerable. So, and I feel like I'm not trying to shout over my AC, because that's the thing. Whenever the AC kicks on and I can hear it, I feel like I need to talk over it, even though I know like you guys can't hear it. So this is kind of helping me to not try to shout over my AC. So I'm hoping that, first of all, I hope that you can't really hear the AC. It's on right this second. So I'm hoping that you mostly just can't hear it. This microphone tends to be pretty good about filtering out the noise of the room, but maybe, I don't know, maybe depends. So hopefully it hasn't been too obnoxious. Hopefully that's not the reason that we have so few viewers today. And I'm trying not to like holler over it. But yeah. Like, as we get into the summer, I'll probably just like blast the AC for the entire morning and then maybe turn it off when I start streaming, if possible. I don't know. Can't hear shit. Good. Glad. Can't hear shit. That's what we want to hear. That's good stuff. I'm glad to hear that. Oh, I just realized that I have the Eye of Sauron right here, and it's also right underneath my dragon eye. Keeping an eye on chat there. It's keeping an eye on you. He's watching. Ugh. Let's see how cold it is in here now. I don't have headphones on, but you sound like usual to me. That's good. I'm really glad to hear it. That means that I don't have to worry, and I can just blast the AC all summer. Okay, yeah. Again, I'm really excited to get the, get some new curtains in here. That'll help a little bit with my noise situation as well. Like, it'll help kind of, like, dampen the sound in the room even more. But mostly just, I don't know, not having to deal with it getting so hot in here during the day. I hope it makes a difference. Yes, I literally have an eye on chat. Yeah, he's watching. I don't know if it's a settings thing or what, but in case it is, can I just say your stream having captions makes it so much more enjoyable for me. Pass that on to the line peeps. Yeah, it's a latency setting. I can ask Jimmy about it. I don't know what his opinion on it is. Basically, like, the shorter... Well, it's like maybe we should do that, and maybe it wouldn't matter, because we don't really directly interact with the chat that much. So that's the biggest reason that you want to have low latency, is because if you want your chat response to be like immediate, I know for some streamers that's like they want it to be in real time, basically as close as possibly can be. So what I have on my stream settings is I've increased the latency slightly, so there's a little bit longer of a delay between when you see the message and when I see it, and therefore between when you make your comment and when I respond. But that increased latency gives the system a little bit of time to produce the captions. So I decided to trade off the immediacy of the latency and the interaction for the sake of the streams being able to have automatic captions on. And of course, the automatic captions are not perfect, but I'm glad that it helps at least somewhat. So yeah, cool. Good to know. I'll talk to Jimmy about it if I remember later. Or honestly, if I just changed the setting and I didn't tell anybody, I don't know that anybody would notice, but I definitely would want to ask if that is okay before I made that kind of change to the stream, because I don't really have the authority to do shit like that. But yeah, again, if it makes no difference because we are not responding in real time to the chat, and the moderators who are in the chat are going to still see it at the same pace, like still going to be able to moderate the chat at the same pace, then yeah, whatever, it doesn't really matter. Let me just scroll through, see if there's anything else we should talk about. Because my voice is tired and the stream is pretty slow today, so I don't feel that bad about potentially just having like a slightly shorter show today. This explains why only some streams I'm on are constantly 15 to 20 seconds behind. That makes so much sense. I didn't know the streamer could control it. Yep. I can control it on Streamlabs, and I can control it on the YouTube end. Basically, like, if I go on YouTube and I say, hey, I want automatic captions on, it says, hey, by the way, this is going to increase your latency. And then I say, okay. Whatever. The captions help a lot for me. I only just started watching lives because of lack of captions. My spouse mentioned today how loud I had Jack's stream. Yeah. Yeah, so I'm glad that makes a difference. It's a choice that I made a couple years back where I was like, we're going to make this trade-off. And I don't personally feel like there's that big of a difference. Like, you have to tell me, because it's you are having the user experience of like, how long does it take my comment, or how long does it take me to see your comments and read them? Which, to be fair, sometimes there are enough of you in the chat that I'm like, I'm in the middle of talking. I've got like something to say, and I'll finish my whole statement, and then I'll go back and reread some. I might even scroll up and reread some of your chats. So to an extent, I'm not even 100% paying attention and like one-to-one chatting right back and forth with you, but yeah. Well, I guess I kind of don't have anything else to talk about today. I'm trying to think, what do we have coming for the next week? Let's at least kind of touch base on what we've got going for the rest of the month. We've got so much exciting stuff happening at the line right now. We just had all hands meeting this week, and we are expanding. We've got new shows coming. We've got like a new Saturday show that we're going to be doing on the regular starting in a couple weeks. And one of the things that they've got working is that we're going to have a public calendar, where you guys can go look and see like all of the shows for the whole month. So right now it's basically, you go to the Line YouTube. Oh my God, I'm hiccuping. You go to the Line YouTube channel, and let's see, the Line. Right now, you go to the Line YouTube channel, and you can see the, oh, why do I, wait, why is my stuff not showing over here? Where is the donation goal? It's usually up here. Did I move it by accident? I will deal with that later. That's so weird. Where did it go? It's like I don't want to deal with it now. I want to know where it is. Where? Why? Okay. Where did... Okay. I'm gonna get stuck on this if I don't stop looking at it now. I'm just like, normally right over there, right over here, there's like the donation goal. I don't know where I don't know what happened to it. Anyway, you go to the Line YouTube channel. Currently, you can see a few upcoming streams, right? They just did Matt with Austin. Tonight, we have the Sunday show with Eric and Forrest. Tomorrow, we have Forrest and Aaron Adair, Dr. Aaron Adair, and then blah, 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 the next couple shows. So sometimes we get down to the end of this, and then Arden uploads like 7 more of these, gets like 7 more of these started. So you get to see some in advance, but that's entirely dependent on how Arden is getting them up for people to see, right? So what we want to do is we want to do a calendar where you can go to the website and see the full month of shows. Like, I can go into our staff calendar and I can see the whole month of shows. I'm like, who's going to be on this upcoming Monday? Or, when is it this month? Oh, man, here's a good one that you'll be able to plan for. When this month are we doing the 8-hour show with Forrest and Erica? Because we basically just do that once a month now. And I'll spoilers, it's on 4/20 this month. because I thought it would be funny. So on April 20th, we're doing the 8-hour show with Forrest and Erica on the Skep Talk Mondays. And it's just entirely because I thought it would be funny to do it that day. That's it. So yeah, you'll be able to look ahead and you'll see how many times is my favorite creator going to be on so that I can schedule and make sure that I'm going to be there, whatever. So that's one of the cool things that we're going to be doing. We're going to start pushing LineCon more. I don't know if you guys know, but on our Patreon for the Line, we have once a month like a miniature convention where we have 3 of our creators give a 20-minute talk, and then we do 1 hour of Q&A after the 3 presentations. And we want to keep expanding that and do that more often. We also want to do a big online con where it's more like panels and like several days that spans over the whole weekend. And we are also gearing up toward doing an in-person convention for the Line. Like, this is something that's been in the works for a while. People want to do it, and we are interested in doing it. The only way we can do, and we want it to be a big convention. Jimmy is like, I want this to be a bigger convention than FFRF. I want this to be a bigger convention than the American Atheist Convention. So we want it to be done right. I don't know if I would even be there, to be completely honest with you. I'm not trying to say like, oh, subscribe to the Line's Patreon and you'll see me in person at the LineCon that we do. I don't know. Like, we don't have plans to do it yet because we don't have the funding that we need to do it. We would need to have a certain amount of basically like money that the company is able to hold on to go ahead and like put on, to be able to rent a venue, to fly out our hosts, like so that the company can pay to fly the hosts out to see, to be seen by you guys and do a big panel thing. So those are some cool points of expansion that we're working on with the Line right now. We're also like doing more shows on Jimmy's Snow and the Line, the politics show. Like, we're going to increase from 3 days a week to eventually 5 days a week on that show. So just lots of expansion. We want to increase our influence, especially because it's an election year. I've floated the idea of making some connections with some other organizations that do the similar kind of work that we do. And yeah, so in general, lots of growth with the Line this year. If you like that stuff, I'm now basically committed. Every Thursday I do Calling It Now with Jimmy. Some Thursdays I do the Transatlantic Call-In Show. Dr. Ben is going to be switching to a guest role on the Transatlantic Call-In Show because he is finally getting his residency to finish his medical training, and that means that he's not going to be available as much. So you might see more of me on Takis starting this summer. And yeah, it's going to be really exciting. So I hope that you guys are all looking forward to those things. We've also got some other ideas kind of in the works. Like, we want to do a newsletter at some point where we have contributing writers for our newsletter. And we're going to start doing the Line Has a Podcast 2 times a week instead of currently it's 1 time a week. And it's also going to start being a live show. So you'll see the podcast live. That is not a call-in show. It's just the hosts talking about the news and shooting the shit with each other and everything. So if you like Jimmy and Alyssa on The Line Has a Podcast, we're going to start investing more in that. So yeah, it's basically going to be a really big year and a couple of years for the Line. And I'm really excited to be part of it. I'm very excited and dedicated to helping the organization grow, help spread our influence, because I think that it does a lot of good, right? We're directly confronting people's beliefs. We're changing people's minds. We are gonna be, more politically active and helping to sway elections potentially. So yeah. So it's gonna be good. Very exciting stuff. So I hope that you guys are looking forward to those things. And like, even if I, pull back a little bit on how much work I'm doing on my channel personally, I am going to be investing a lot in the Line over the next few years. So if you're ever like, oh, I don't get to see Lux as much because Lux is not streaming as often, then you'll pretty much always be able to see me on Thursdays on Calling It Now. It's not going to be chill vibes. It's going to be confrontation and conversation and challenging beliefs and things like this. But I think that's good work. I'm excited to keep doing it. So, with all that said, I will be on this week on Thursday. I am on Takis and Calling It Now. I think so this week and next week, I'm on Takis and Calling It Now. And then on the 23rd, I'm only on Calling It Now. And then, of course, that 30th, I'm going to be driving to Kansas. I'll probably be like driving through the Rocky Mountains on that Thursday. So, yeah, I will not be here that entire weekend. And for your guys' reference, I don't have any immediate plans to change how frequently I'm streaming. So you can pretty much consistently for the rest of the month expect me. Oh, well, hold on. Okay, so I'm still going to be streaming Wednesdays and Sundays, except on the 26th, I have to cover Arden's morning show. So I will not be streaming on the 26th. I will not be streaming on the 29th. And I will not be streaming on the 3rd. Because the 29th through the 3rd, I'm going to be traveling. So, yeah. Basically, we got a nice full month. We got a pretty full month. Yeah. Oh my god, that's so true. Dizzy says, call in when Luxander is producing and you might be able to piss them off enough to be the voice of God. Listen, I'm not supposed to. I'm not supposed to pitch into the conversation when I'm producing. I'm supposed to let the hosts shine. They're doing their job. I don't want to undermine what they're trying to do or whatever. But listen, sometimes I have to cut a call short. Sometimes I have to be like, oh my god, you were fucking kidding me. Anyway. So yeah, I will be producing tonight as well. So if you want to come hang out with Forrest and Eric from Skeptics and Scoundrels tonight, I'll be there in about an hour and a half. So you can just like vibe with me in the chat if you ever want to. I produce 3 times a week for the line currently, unless there's a cause I want to like incidentally. But currently my regular schedule is the Sunday After Dark show, Skep Talk, and Chewed Gum. I pretty much always produce those. So you can see me and hang out in the chat. Yeah. What about the Lux dog? Ahahaha. Like God. I've never seen any producer interrupt unwarranted. I think that I like when I first started producing, I kind of overdid it a little bit. And so I pulled back. But yeah. Anyway. So thanks for hanging out, everybody. I am going to go eat some pizza, I think. And I will see y'all if you come hang out in the chat on the line in a couple hours. And other than that, I will see y'all again. I'm planning to stream on Wednesday. So, much love. See you in the Discord between now and then. Link in the description or on the website. And yeah, that's it. Love y'all. See you later.